I am continuing my reading. What I'm doing in this series is to read through the entire standard works of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. This consists of the Bible, the Book of Mormon, the Doctrine and Covenants, and the Pearl of Great Price. I am reading in a chronological order of events, not according to publication or volume, so I will be skipping around a bit as I move along. So let us flip to the Words of Mormon for just a moment. Now, the Words of Mormon, this is a book that explains the connection between the small plates and the large plates. It explains, or it makes that connection. It explains why we have the small plates, and then connects the history of the small plates to the later history of the large plates in Mosiah. The first half of it, of course, chronologically takes place during the time of Mormon, around, a little bit before the 400 AD. We're talking 500 years later. 500 years after the time period we're reading about right now. But the last half is the connecting history. So we're going to read that. We pick it up here in verse 10. So here we go, the chapter heading. Mormon abridges their history onto the plates of Mormon. He inserts the plates of Nephi into the abridgment. King Benjamin establishes peace in the land. So we're going to pick this up in verse 10. Remember that in Omni, he talked about a great war between the Nephites and the Lamanites in Zarahemla, and that Benjamin, who was recently made king, fought against the Lamanites and drove them out. So now we turn to the Words of Mormon. Wherefore it came to pass that after Amaleki had delivered up these plates into the hands of King Benjamin, he took them and put them with the other plates, which contained records which had been handed down by the kings from generation to generation until the days of King Benjamin. And they were handed down from King Benjamin from generation to generation until they have fallen into my hands. And I, Mormon, pray to God that they may be preserved from this time and henceforth. And I know that they will be preserved, for there are great things written upon them, out of which my people and their brethren shall be judged at the great and last day, according to the word of God which is written. And now concerning this King Benjamin, he had somewhat of contentions among his own people. And it came to pass also that the armies of the Lamanites came down out of the land of Nephi to battle against his people. But behold, King Benjamin gathered together his armies, and he did stand against them, and he did fight with the strength of his own arm, with the sword of Laban. And in the strength of the Lord they did contend against their enemies, until they had slain many thousands of the Lamanites. And it came to pass that they did contend against the Lamanites, until they had driven them out of the lands of their inheritance. And it came to pass that after there had been false Christs, and their mouths had been shut, and they punished according to their crimes. And after there had been false prophets and false preachers and teachers among the people, and all these having been punished according to their crimes, and after there having been much contention and many dissensions away unto the Lamanites, behold, it came to pass that King Benjamin, with the assistance of the holy prophets who were among his people, for behold, King Benjamin was a holy man, and he did reign over his people in righteousness. And there were many holy men in the land, and they did speak the word of God with power and with authority, and they did use much sharpness because of the stiff-neckedness of the people. Wherefore, with the help of these, King Benjamin, by laboring with all the might of his body and the faculty of his whole soul, and also the prophets, did once more establish peace in the land. So this is what's happening up in Zarahemla, while Noah is king down in the land of Lehi Nephi. Now, the exact timing is somewhat questionable. We don't know exactly when all this stuff happened, but there's a lot of stuff going on here. This is 9 verses. We get a lot of stuff going here. We know that the records, we have the record, the small plates being handed down through to Amaleki are now given to Benjamin. He puts them with the other records that have been handed down by the kings. That would be the large plates of Nephi. And then that collection gets handed down until it comes to Mormon. In addition, there is a conflict among the Nephites before the Lamanites come to attack. Amaleki didn't mention this, so I'm thinking it may have happened after Amaleki gave the plates to Benjamin. The first war in Omni, when Amaleki describes the war between Benjamin and the Lamanites, this happened while Amaleki was alive because he records it. But Mormon talks about stuff that happened after Amaleki gives the plates to Benjamin. So there was a war with the Lamanites, then we have a kind of civil war, a contention among the Nephites, followed by another war with the Lamanites. And after that, many antichrists, many dissensions away to the Lamanites. Again, many Nephites are leaving and joining the Lamanites. We have this time period, all the detail that we get during the time of Alma We could have gotten that same detail during the time of King Benjamin, and we don't. We're just given this very brief overview of what's going on. But all of this happens while Noah is king, or as when Noah and Limhi is king. That we have this time period, and it's like in the year 160 to 120 BC is the time of Noah and Limhi, and that's in that 40 years of King Benjamin's reign. And we have all these two different wars with the Lamanites, a civil war, many antichrists, many preachings, many prophets that we are never named in the scriptures. We don't know who these men were. One detail that is very fascinating is that King Benjamin is wielding the sword of Laban. Now that sword does not appear in the record after the time of Nephi. Nephi says that he makes swords modeled after the sword of Laban. But then it disappears from the record until now, until King Benjamin is wielding it. Now, what was it? Omni and Abinadab both talk about wielding their swords in battle against the Lamanites. And I had the thought at the time, maybe they were using the sword of Laban, but now I realize, no, the sword of Laban was a relic that was handed down through the kings along with the large plates. And that's why Benjamin is using it. The large plates and the sword of Laban are holy relics that are handed down through the line of kings. The small plates and probably the Liahona are the holy relics handed down through the line of the priests, through the line of Jacob. Now eventually these two lines converge, or these relics come back together with Alma. But we can see the division of these holy relics from the beginning. These are the four big things, the four really big holy relics that the family of Lehi brought with them out of Jerusalem. And we also have the brass plates, which are probably handed down through the priests as well, although we're not told that specifically. But this gives us some indication of how these things were passed down through the generations and how they symbolized the two different lines. We have the large plates as the history of the government history, the political history, and the sword would be a symbol of political leadership and power. The small plates are a religious history, and of course the Liahona and the brass plates would be symbols of religious authority and power. Now we're going to return to Mosiah and read a little bit about Alma and his group before returning back to Limhi. So I will see you there.